I was talking. My goodness. Cheryl, it's good to see you. I see Mayor Wheelo is there.
I see a lot of activists in the world of community
Yes.
development.
Frank, Mr. Mark, great, everybody. Just good morning, everyone.
Good morning, this is Janine. I'm not sure if you heard me before, but I pushed the meeting live to YouTube, so it's live now.
Oh, all right. If we are ready,
Yeah, ready whenever you and Ashley are.
we'll get started. All right.
Hey,
So our
Pernell.
Cuyahoga County Community Development, Community Reinvestment Advisory Subcommittee meeting is now called to order. Janine, would you call the roll, please?
Calling the roll, Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Stevens,
Present.
Ms. Blackwell. Ms. Blackwell is absent at the moment. Ms. Wheelo. Ms. Wheelo's absent.
Here.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Ms. George. Ms. George is absent at the moment. Mr. McDermott.
Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Zone. Mr. Zone is absent at the moment. Mr. Benjamin.
Here.
And Mr. Sarin.
Here.
We have a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilmember Miller is also in attendance.
All right,
And this is
welcome.
Megan. This is Megan George. I'm here. Just had an IT issue. Apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Janine, has anyone signed in for public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one submitted any public comment.
Thank you. Well, at this time, I just want to take a moment and we want to go around having an introduction of all of our committee members. If we were sitting in a room, it would be easy to simply go around the room. So we're going to have to figure this out Zoom-wise. Why don't we just each take turns and introduce ourselves?
Why don't we start with you, Pernell?
All right. Well, again, I'm County Councilman Pernell Jones Jr. I am the chair of the Community Development Committee. I serve as vice president of County Council proper, and again, the chair of this particular subcommittee. And I will pass to the next person. Cheryl, why don't you go next?
I will go. I wanted to make sure that can you hear me?
I can.
I just wanted to make sure that you had finished speaking. I'm Cheryl Stevens, and I am the County Council member representing District 10, which is Bracknell through University Heights and Cleveland Heights. So it's a swath that includes some of the richest people in the state of Ohio and some of the poorest people in the state of Ohio. I am completely concerned because of what I do for a living. My discipline is a focus on housing and economic development. And we see that the largest banks in the state, all of which are represented in Greater Cleveland, have made commitments to reinvest in our communities and have underachieved, to be polite about it. And so as Pernell and I talked about what we wanted to see earlier this year and last year with our new engagement of Key Bank in a relationship for the Treasurer's Office, we decided it was important to continue that dialogue. And so that's why we invited all of y'all to participate with us in a discussion about what we want to see, not only from Key, but it should grow into what we want to see from the other lenders. So why don't we, the first person on my list next is Barbara Anderson. Barbara?
Oh, well, thank you. And I really appreciate the comments that were made by you and of course by Councilman Jones, President. I am Barbara Anderson, and I am the chair for the Greater Cleveland Reinvestment Coalition. And of course, we stand ready to make sure that the banks do the service that they said they were willing to do. And so we are here to just represent our community and certainly those that are underserved in our community.
And at this moment, I would just invite each person to jump in as you're able until everyone has had an opportunity.
So this is Mayor Wheelo from South Euclid. As you all know, if you're in this field, South Euclid stopped some nasty business between Key Bank and the New York, the Bank of New York and Ohio Savings. We actually worked very hard with other organizations. We realized that Ohio Savings had over $92 million in investments in South Euclid, and in 3 years never issued one loan
My
to
goodness.
any South Euclid resident. So this is a big problem. I'm probably one of the few here when I look on this actual meeting that was a mayor at the time when county government was different. I can tell you that we worked very diligently with, at the time, Treasurer Jim Rakakis, in which there was no, how do I say this, investment of our county dollars if a bank institution was not going to work with us. So I do hope that that's something that we can look at. And I'm really excited about this. I have to tell you, I think that when you see who's on this Zoom meeting and the idea behind it, I think we can really help our county residents at a time that is so needed. So I thank you, and I'm here to help.
Excellent.
Hey, everyone.
How
I'm Gary
about
Benjamin. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
No, go Gary, you first.
Mr. Gary Benjamin, go right ahead.
All right. I guess I got my nose over the wire first there. Gary Benjamin, I'm a civil rights lawyer. I've been doing civil rights work for 40 years now. My interest in community reinvestment got piqued when I was the legal aids advocacy director in Akron, and we organized the Community Reinvestment Coalition there to participate in the Huntington and Fifth Third CBAs that we're talking about here a bit. In Cleveland, since I left legal aid, I've gotten very active, more active in greater Cleveland congregations. I'm here representing that group. We did work in the Noble neighborhood in Cleveland Heights, going door to door and identifying bad houses in bad shape, and looking at who owned them. And it turned out that US Bank was the biggest mortgagor in Cleveland Heights and gave us the most trouble. So we complained to the Office of the Comptroller of Currency and got their attention and started having meetings with them, which went on for 2 or 3 years, and they ended up funding some nonprofits and changing some of their ways. So we've seen firsthand on the ground the effect that these mortgage lenders can have on neighborhoods, because we had some places where whole blocks were in trouble. So that's where my passion lies. What I've seen in this generally is it seems to be an industry-wide problem. And while I think we need to focus on individual banks, especially with these community benefit agreements, we also need to talk, in my mind, about things we could do to encourage other banks and all the other lenders. I think Frank Ford says there's over 100 lenders in the Cleveland, Cuyahoga County area. And I'd like to start thinking about what we can do policy-wise and structure-wise to encourage all of them to do the right thing. So that's me.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. At this time, Councilman Miller, why don't you take a moment?
Thank you very much. I'm Dale Miller, and I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm here because of the great importance of community investment to our county's future. I believe that housing is one of the pillars of economic and social success, and it hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves compared to some other issues. And so I support these efforts. I think this is an outstanding use of the advisory subcommittee rule, and I'm happy to see this high-powered group of activists and interested people coming to work together on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. Even though you're not on the committee, I did want you to be acknowledged. I do see, has Matt Zone checked in?
Yes, sir.
Please go right ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. First of all, kudos to you and your colleagues on the County Council for having the vision and foresight to create this working group. So in this season of Thanksgiving and leading into the holiday season, I'm thankful that that we have visionary leaders at the county who are want to create a loan product that really fits the needs of county residents. I'm here in a new capacity, but bringing 2 decades of experience as a longtime Cleveland City Council member, involved in national organizations and National League of Cities. And I'm here with my colleague, Frank Ford, representing the Thriving Communities Institute. As you know, Frank well, who's done a tremendous amount of research and helping with the VAPAC Council. And so we look forward to contributing and giving and lending our perspective as we create new policy that will help support the county's vision for really helping people become long-term homeowners in Cuyahoga County. So Frank, anything you want to add to that? You're muted, Frank.
Does Frank have his mute button on?
Yeah, I apologize for that. No, I was just saying silently that you covered it, and thank you very much, Matt.
Gosh, if you don't mind, Councilman, I'll go next. Excuse me. I'm Mark McDermott, sitting here at the Detroit Shorey neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. My councilman used to be the best councilman in all of Cleveland City Council, and now he's gone on to do some other job. But it's good to see him on the screen, and it's wonderful to have Jenny Spencer be our council person now. I'm with an organization called Enterprise Community Partners. We're a national organization with a focus on affordable housing as a way for both individuals and families and also communities to improve, to have high qualities of life, and to have places where people really want to choose to live. We do that through policy work. We do that through investment. We typically invest across the country over $1 billion a year in different ways. And we do that through helping to convene and lead different programmatic efforts like Housing First and the Cuyahoga EITC Coalition. I help lead our work here in Ohio out of an office, formerly an office here in Cleveland, now my home. And we have a lot of experience on the capital side. What we know is that it is silly and wasteful to spend public capital and public resources without leveraging private capital and without making sure that banks and other sources of private capital are doing their share. The last thing I'll say is that I've been working on community reinvestment issues, including through the establishment of the CRA since 1979, 1980. I'm not as old as Frank Ford, but have been doing work for that long. And I'll tell you, we're in much better shape than we were back then in terms of banks being willing to commit to do this kind of work, but we have a long way to go. And I'm really, really glad, councilmen and members of council, to see this subcommittee established and doing this work. So kudos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, Alexa Beeler.
Good morning. I am an assistant law director with the county, and I'm here on behalf of the county.
Excellent. In fact, I don't want to miss anyone. If you have not gone yet, please feel free to chime in.
Well, this is
Morning,
Greg,
everyone.
Councilman. I'm just here on behalf of the law department. Wanted to see how this subcommittee is going to get rolled out.
Morning, this is Michelle Ponriez, Director of Regional Collaboration, just here to help support for the executive side and see what other ways that my department can be helpful. Thank you, Council Chair.
Excellent, thank you. It's good to have the administration here. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else, any of the committee members who
I
have
saw
not
that
yet
Mayor
had a chance to
Blackwell had
speak?
joined us.
Good morning, it's Mayor Blackwell. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
Mayor.
can.
Welcome. Welcome. I don't know how much you heard, but we're just giving introductions. If you would just take a moment and share, introduce yourself to everyone.
Mayor Blackwell, the mayor of Maple Heights. Happy to be here today. I'm interested and certainly serving because I have been my own economic development director for 4 years, just going on 5 years, 9 months ago, brought someone in, but this is a passion of mine and it's very much needed to revitalize the city of Maple Heights. So I'm interested in what this committee will bring and hopefully there'll be something that I can contribute as well. I'm pleased to meet all of you.
And thank you. Are there any other participants?
This is Khalil. Hi. So I'm Khalil Sarin. I am a policy advisor for the council. I have been working on community development policy and efforts for the council for the last 9.5 years. And this is something that I think the council and I have been excited to explore a little bit more robustly for quite some time. So I'm very excited that this subcommittee is starting. And for those of you who don't know, I also have a night job as vice mayor, council vice president in Cleveland Heights.
Okay. Are there any other council staff in attendance that can introduce themselves?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is Mayor Megan George, City of Lakewood, wrapping up my first year in the mayor's office. It's been a challenging year, but it's been a challenging year for all of us as we adjust to COVID. Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. In Lakewood, you know, our focus is on affordable housing, increasing home ownership, and I'm really glad to be included in this fine group of individuals and looking forward to discussions.
Great, welcome. Any other introductions?
Hi, my name is Ashley Johnson. I'm the Assistant Deputy Clerk of Council, and I will be the clerk for this committee. Going forward, if you guys have any attendance issues or any technical issues, anything that you would like for me to submit to the committee prior to the meeting, you can definitely reach out to me, contact me via email, and I'll also provide you guys with the phone number.
Great. Have we heard from all committee members? Excellent, excellent. Well, let me take a moment and share a little more about my reason for starting this subcommittee. As many of you know, I'm a funeral director by profession. My family owns a funeral home, and for many years, we struggled to get access to capital, get the loans necessary to expand and grow our business. But it was only through the result in the hard work of Mayor Michael R. White, who literally said to the banks, if you don't lend to the residents of this community and we deposit their dollars with you, then we will not deposit with you. And he pointed to our business as an example. And this was back in the early 90s, mid 90s. And as a result of his efforts through the empowerment zone, we were able to expand our business. So that for me as a young man at that time, it showed me how government could leverage, as Mark McDermott mentioned, could leverage its assets and its power for the benefit of the community and for the businesses in the community. And that always stuck with me. So when I ran for office, I've been in office for 10 years as county councilman. So I feel like I've been dragging my feet to get to this point because I wanted this from day one. Previous bank contracts, as they came around, opportunity did not present itself for me then, but we are here today. As we know, Key Bank has the county deposits, and we worked with administration. I worked with administration to, and with many of you here today who helped us with roughly 12 action items that the bank, the Key Bank could do to benefit this community. When it came time to legislate this this banking contract, to move it through committee, we learned that the action items were not mandated, but they were the best faith efforts that Key Bank would do. So we do expect the best faith effort. But as a result of that, we decided to create this subcommittee for the purpose of working with KeyBank, providing the oversight that providing the gravitas and the oversight that this subcommittee possesses, to again see that in real time that these best faith efforts are actually happening, as opposed to waiting to the end of the contract and learning that either it happened or that it did not happen as we had hoped. So we are here today, and I am thankful for each and every one of you here today to discuss what our outcomes and goals and objectives should be. You each have an experience, you have a skill set, and I'm hoping in this meeting that we can have a robust discussion around just what we think our outcomes and goals can be around this subject matter. So again, that is the explanation and the purpose of, again, this subcommittee. Our next item, in fact, let me ask, are there any comments or any thoughts of anyone, any comments? If not, our next item is the discussion of our meeting schedule. We chose today, from a county council perspective, our regular council meeting is on Tuesday. We just had it yesterday. Next week is a heavy week for many of the committee members, myself, Cheryl, and others. So this Wednesday was pretty ideal for us in terms of council. One day during this week is a lighter schedule for county. So I targeted this week. Hopefully we can find time that works for all of us coming up. Let's have that discussion. Is there any problem with this time, or is there a more ideal time that we can consider for our meeting schedule?
I have a Wednesday morning problem. I'm teaching a course on race and the law on Wednesday at 10 to 12 for the first quarter. So it ends late April. So Wednesday afternoon or Thursday anytime or Friday anytime works better. If it doesn't work and I'm the only one with a problem, I can possibly have colleagues take over the course for a couple of days, but that wouldn't be ideal from the university's standpoint.
Councilman Jones, this is Matt. So what I would recommend is whatever day we land on in time, that we keep it consistent, that we stay that same day, that same time, so we can all embed it in our schedule for all of 2021. What I'd recommend is, as opposed to all of us going around sharing our personal schedule, when we can meet, when we can't, is have your staff just send maybe a doodle poll to all of us, and what comes up with the consensus and the majority that works for everyone, let's just lock it in. It has to work for the county council. It has to work for your calendar. So you should start with what your availability is and what works well for your colleagues at the county, and then throw out dates that work well on your schedule, and then we'll react to that.
Excellent. I like that. All right. And Janine can handle that. All right. If there are no other comments on that, let's move on to our next item. Discussion of desired subcommittee outcomes, goals, and objectives. Okay. Now, I've expressed some of my thoughts and my feelings about this. We have the 12 action items. Khalil, are you with us?
I am. So yeah, I've given some thought to this, and I think in addition to sort of taking a look at what Key is doing and making sure that we have an accurate and up-to-date understanding of what their efforts are, I think part of my understanding of an outcome that's desirable is ensuring that once we get to a point where we are putting out an RFP for a banking contract, or well before we're putting out an RFP for a banking contract, we understand exactly what things we want baked into that RFP, and the banks that would be putting in proposals also have an understanding of what community reinvestment efforts we want if they're going to put in a proposal in response to our request. I
Excuse
think,
me, Khalil, do you
Sure.
have the 12 or 13 items we came up with for the agreement that the best efforts of Key?
I do not have those in front of me right now. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's something I'd like to have go out to all the committee members. That way we can use that as a starting point, so that if people think, sometimes it's just how we wordsmith things, and they can become clearer. So you do possess that, right? So you can forward it to the clerk to send around to all of us. And you're on mute.
Khalil, are you still there? Look like we have no difficulty.
I'm sorry about that. My earpiece got disconnected from the Bluetooth for a second there. I missed just a little bit of the last piece there.
So I was asking you to either forward it to all the committees or have us give it to the clerk so that she could forward to all of us.
All right, I can make that happen.
Yeah, let's take a moment. Is that something we can do right now? I was expecting that we had those action items in front of us.
I'll work on that now.
Okay. All right. As you work on it, actually, there are a good number of our committee members here who actually helped craft those action items. Let's take a moment and we can start there. In fact, if I remember, Mark, you had a significant role in that too. Am I correct?
Actually, if I may, Councilman, and I'm also here representing the county housing stakeholders group, but it was really Frank Ford who headed up a joint committee that between the county housing stakeholders group and I think it was Frank, was it GCRC or VAPAC? I really can't remember.
It was GCRC, yeah.
GCRC. So it was a joint committee between those organizations, and humbly, Frank could speak much better than I, Councilman, if that's okay.
And that's fine. Again, because Mark, obviously, Frank, you were there when I spoke and reached out and got those action items from you. This body is the one that has helped us even from the beginning. So great, Mark, if you could take a moment and just kind of share.
I'll email it to you in a minute.
Okay.
Councilman, were you calling on me or Mark? I just want to make sure.
On Frank Ford.
Okay, sure. And actually, I actually have the 13 commitments in front of me. It does embody the. Let me just give you the simple overview. So the main things were the issues that have been observed over the last several years. One was because of the market prices in the east side of Cleveland and east inner suburbs in particular having dropped so low, it's common now to have a home that could be selling for $40,000, $45,000, $50,000. And those could be decent homes, but the market prices are just very low. And bank loan officers, if they are paid by commission, are really not drawn to do a $45,000 loan. They're going to be more interested in doing a $300,000 loan, $200,000 in the suburbs. So one of the issues was, can we encourage KeyBank as well as other banks to look at ways that they could capture the market for loans 50,000 or less and increase their lending in that area? That was one. Second major issue was the need for home repair lending. That and again, this would certainly be a major issue on the east side of Cleveland and many of the eastern entering suburbs. If not, we could say throughout the county, but those are the main areas where there's lack of access to loans for people to do repairs for health and safety issues or a roof, porch, gutters, whatever they need, new furnace. And one specific thing was that Cleveland Heights Home Repair Resource Center has had a program for several decades that's actually very successful. And they are partnering with KeyBank, have been partnering. And that program, let me just go into this just a little bit of detail here. What makes it unique is that the only way people get into that program is if they've been first denied a home repair loan. So they've been rejected. The program then provides financial counseling. It provides assistance to assess the home for what are the appropriate repairs. It provides a final inspection to make sure the repairs were done. And with those additional features, that program has a 95% success rate, and or reverse, you could say only a 5% default rate, which is remarkable given that every applicant has actually been already rejected as being too risky. So KeyBank is doing that program, but it's only for Cleveland Heights. A major ask was, would KeyBank be willing to expand that program beyond Cleveland Heights? And I believe that one of the commitments is that they will seek to do that, and they will seek to work with Cleveland Housing Network and others to try to make home repair loans available, and certainly with the Home Repair Resource Center. I'm just looking to see, scanning the list here. I do want, let me mention one other thing which may or may not be on the list, but it was one of the things that was suggested by this joint working group that Mark referenced. That is that banks turn in their lending data to the federal government annually, like towards the end of March. So the data for 2020 that we're in right now will be turned into the federal government end of March, but doesn't become publicly available till August, September, sometimes as late as October. One of the things that was suggested was banks have the data, they could actually make it available sooner. And perhaps they should make it available to this advisory subcommittee, maybe on a 6-month basis, or certainly at least towards the end of the year. So for example, KeyBank would, if they wanted to, they could give this committee their lending data for 2020 as early as March when they give it to the federal government, which means, and I'm plugging myself here, it means that a researcher like me could then look at it and give you an advanced view of what is the performance. And in theory, this could also be done on a 6-month basis in the middle of a year. In the
Frank,
Did we lose Frank, or
It looks like it got frozen.
Frank, you froze.
My internet connection may be unstable.
Sometimes it helps if you turn your video off and you can be heard better. You can try that.
Thanks. Thank you. Does that help at all that I just turned off the video?
I can hear you now.
You can. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that, Joe. That was a good suggestion. Let me go back to, I think what I was saying, if you missed it, was one of the commitments was that KeyBank would also increase their Small Business Administration SBA lending. They would provide an alternative to payday check cashing operations, participate in the county's HELP program, because they've been participating, and I think there's some concern that KeyBank might not continue that. And I think a major ask was to make sure that KeyBank would continue participating in the county's HELP, H-E-L-P, home repair loan program. Another commitment was that they would work with CHN Housing Partners to help fund a new community development financial institution, CDFI. Another was that they would reduce loan transaction fees on loans of less than $150,000 and on all refinancing. I'm not sure if you want me to try to go through this list of 13. I think I gave you some of the key highlights. Is that sufficient for now?
You gave most of the highlights. I just wanted to mention one. This is Barbara Anderson, where they're also part of the commitment was that KeyBank would partner with the county in providing a series of community programs that address financial literacy and education. And here it says at least one such program will be directed towards children aging out of foster care. I just think it's very important that we make sure that we have that community education piece in there too, Frank.
Okay.
I think you mentioned most of them.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Councilman, this is Mark. I also see that Alexa just emailed out the a copy of the
Oh, great.
key
Great.
man commitments. Thank you,
Great.
Alexa.
Great. Well, let's take a moment if you've had take a chance to look at that. If anyone else wants to weigh in.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Matt.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I want to make be productive of all of our time as possible. What I would recommend is maybe that our next work session, that part of the agenda is to review what currently is in place. We will have had time to ponder what is in those items in that document that was sent to us. We can review it and then maybe create an opportunity after we have a conversation at the next meeting about what's actually in there. What are other aspects of what we would like to see in a potential new CRA agreement? We need to create a loan product that fits the needs of our diverse county. And so by us now just making suggestions about, I'd love to see foreclosure and intervention workout plans, but I don't know how productive that would be sharing that now. And I want to make use of all of our time and be as efficient as possible.
Actually, I'd like to take that a step further, Mr. Chairman. I think what we need to do, I agree with Matt that we need to discuss all of the items on this and have a chance to look at it. But I'd like to try and prioritize what we focus on first. So that's why it's important for everyone to look at this list of technically commitments, but also to talk about where our priorities are over the next month or so. If everyone would come up, my favorite thing is to come up with your top 3 things that you would not make any concessions on. And if we could each figure out what our top 3 things are and see if there's some commonality in those top 3 things, then we could focus on where our energies are best spent based on where our interests lie, since we do represent the diversity of the county. You and I worked hard to find East Siders, West Siders, folks that represent the South, and then folks who get the global picture like Frank and Matt. And so I think that over the next 30 days, since we won't meet again until sometime in probably mid-January, that the best use of folks' time is to take this list and their basis of knowledge and come up with a top 3 items. What do you think?
I think that's excellent. What I would like is to have the administration, particularly Chris Murray, also to come in, because I think this committee needs to also understand where the county is position-wise in terms of this contract. Have them to weigh in first, and let that be a part of our calculation as well.
So I would also suggest that we have Ted Carter in to represent the development piece. So maybe the 2 of them could be the headliners at our next meeting.
Excellent. Chris Murray and Ted Carter. All right.
Mr. President?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'd like to offer another idea if you're kind of thinking about what the committee should have as its goals. And one thing you might think about is, are there areas besides the county's investment contract that could give us leverage over the banking behavior? Then we should think about whether there's other tools we could work with to expand our capabilities. One thing that just came to my mind is if the county were to work with the municipalities and put out a collective investment contract for the county plus a number of municipalities, or a group of municipalities that would create another leverage point.
Okay. All right, we can take that into consideration. A collective investment contract. Okay, other leverage points. All right. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, there's been some changes at KeyBank certainly since the county put out its RFP. I think probably, I can't remember when the choice was made on Key, but since Key was chosen, there's a new CEO at KeyBank. There is a new person on there heading up, Eric Fiala, who heads up their corporate social responsibility and their community reinvestment responsibilities. And so I'm just wondering, I don't know what the setup is between the administration and Key in terms of these discussions or this reporting. I'm also wondering whether the new folks at Key at the top and at Mr. Fiala's level know much about this. Since in transitions, we know a lot, sort of some stuff rises to the top and some stuff doesn't. So I'm not saying they don't, but I'm wondering if they do. And I think it would be good to somehow sort of check into that. And I'm just going to make a suggestion.
I think it's a great suggestion, Mark.
Yeah.
But I think we need to find out from Chris Murray exactly what we should be looking for as far as his perspective goes. We want the administration to tell us and the law department to weigh in on what our legal agreement says with them, and then have them come in and make a presentation on what their commitments to the commitments are, and how they think they're going to deliver on any of them. And that might allow us to better understand what we need to focus on and what we need to push on.
Yes, we obviously Key was not invited to this meeting because the objective was for us to meet, for us to know who our fellow committee members are, to discuss what the objective is, what the contract is in place, that we can have in our next meeting with the administration. I want this body to fully understand the position of the county, what we've done, and the process that entails. And then once we have righted ourselves, then we certainly want to bring KeyBank to the table to make sure that we're getting the best faith effort out of KeyBank. So I think you're all correct. We just want to follow each logical step to get to what we want.
Chairman Jones, this is Frank.
Yes.
Could I just make one suggestion? This is following the suggestion that everyone look at the 13 and consider their top 3. I did send around, if people hadn't seen it, the most recent research I did, which includes a 4-year review of KeyBank's lending in home purchase loans, home repair loans, loans under 50,000, and loans to low moderate income people. And it's might be, if you haven't seen it, it only take a few minutes to look at it. And there's some charts that are fairly revealing. They do show good news that KeyBank with home purchase loans has actually been increasing steadily over the last 4 years. They're not necessarily a leader in that regard, but they are increasing. What's disturbing, though, is that they've been decreasing their home repair lending. And in particular, on the east side of Cleveland, their production fell by half on the east side of Cleveland, and I think also dropped in the east inner suburbs. So those are things, the research doesn't cover all 13 items. It really just covers some major benchmarks for mortgage lending, but I just suggesting that people take a look at that. I did email it last night.
Frank, let me just ask, did you email it to everyone? I did. I've already received it and seen it, and of course have been where you've actually given information and guided us through it. I just want to make sure that everyone that's now on this part of the subcommittee, that they did receive it, because if they didn't, I think it's a very important piece for them to review.
I replied to one of Ashley's emails.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think it was one of the emails that actually had some additional county staff on it. So there might have been about 80 to 90 people on that email.
Okay. Okay.
All right, and certainly if we get everything to it, Janine or Ashley, which is the more appropriate email? Janine?
Hey, no, this is Ashley. They can get it to me. My email is arjohnson@cuyahoga-county.us. He did reply to everyone, but I can also make sure it gets sent out again.
Okay.
Right.
And also, I just want to make special note that Key Bank, Huntington, and Fifth Third also received this information and actually responded to it at the conference. Was that last month? I think it was November. In November, during a panel discussion. And so we know that they already have it. So even in talking back to Key, it would be interested in knowing what their response is now after seeing this and hearing this report. And the fact that it's also had some media attention. Hopefully it has moved them to do something different. I'm sorry, I didn't say who I am. I'm Barbara Anderson. Okay.
All right. Are there any other comments or thoughts from any committee members?
Yeah, this is Matt.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, and to my colleagues on this committee, so what I currently understand is that there's currently an agreement with Key that's been in place for a little less than a year, and it has a 4-year duration. It would be my recommendation that I'm not opposed to holding individuals, organizations, or companies accountable, but I always like to approach my work with honey as opposed to vinegar. And so as opposed to us getting very aggressive in this committee, trying to cast shade, whether it's on Key or other lenders, I don't know how productive that work will be. What I would hope that we could come to is building consensus and then applying the necessary pressure with not only Key, but any potential new lenders with the county to create a product that really meets the needs of people in our county. And I would just, all of these meetings are on YouTube, they're public. This can be messy work. And for those who have never served in a legislative body, I mean, we're making sausage now. So I would just ask everyone to have that in mind on how we go about doing this process, and we'll ultimately get to a good point. It's going to get a little messy, but just know that we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Well, as chair of this committee, let me say that I echo your sentiment. I know I shared my experience in what Mayor Michael R. White did, and that was more of a stick than anything. But I do believe in the carrot, and I believe Key Bank has stepped forward and said best faith efforts, and I believe they will be a good partner. But we're here to all work together, and it will be in that spirit of partnership that we move forward in this committee while I chair.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
This is Khalil, and I'd like to add a little bit to that point. One thing that I was thinking about earlier as Frank was listing and giving some background on some of those items, talking about the HELP loan, I seem to remember some conversation maybe a couple years ago. We were talking, I was talking with development, and I believe it was about the potential for banks exiting the HELP loan program and having difficulties with it. We were discussing sort of the need for a restructure. And I think to sort of further Matt's point, thinking about how, if there are issues that banks bring up with certain community reinvestment programs, if there are things about a program that make it difficult for a bank to justify continuing with it, we might have some space in this subcommittee to think about how we might restructure a program to make it more palatable to banks in a current economic environment, instead of sort of being, as was stated, a little bit more harsh and sort of demanding certain things, there might be ways that we can adjust programs or provide supports from the county in order to make community reinvestment a little bit easier for the banks as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
This is Mayor Blackwell. I'm hearing a lot of things, and I've sat in way too many of these meetings, but again, I'm happy to be here. But I just want to be clear because I'm hearing so many different things, and some of it seems a little conflicting. Are we in agreement? And not having that document, of course, challenges me in front of me. Are we in agreement? Or do we have a consensus about what the needs are? There are many, many organizations represented. Are we even in consensus about what the needs are? I don't know that without that document. And
Right.
while I certainly concur with Mr. Zone and Khalil about being aggressive, I don't think the word's aggressive, but strategic and clear needs to be the question. What are we asking? Because we've asked these things before. There's a redundancy in these efforts. I'd love to this 2021 and my participation in this committee to create some results. I've seen Mr. Ford's information. I look at it regularly. We've been on several panels together, but there's some clarity that needs to be. I'm just hearing so many things. It's a little confusing for me. Are we asking for community reinvestment in the area of business? Are we asking for more home approval loans? Are we asking for the whole thing? How are we asking? Who are we asking? I'm not getting that. And maybe this is not the meeting to get it. We're just kind of meeting here. And as I look at the agenda, I think we're still at 8, discussion of desired subcommittee outcomes, goals, and objectives. I guess I'm just saying, I want to get somewhere. I don't have to tell the story of Maple Heights. I've told it probably 20 times in 6 years. The story is not different from many other communities that are struggling. I think her name was Aisha Banks or Aisha Weeks. I don't remember what the name was. When we said what bank we were gonna pick, and we knew the Key Bank was problematic when we chose it, but we chose it. It is what it is. So what is the approach? Is it strategic? Is it clear? Is it direct? Are we being repetitive or redundant in our actions? What exactly are we doing? I don't hear that. And I'm not trying to be difficult or the person that just came and, was negative about the meeting, but let's just get clear here. 6 years of sitting on these meetings and having these discussions have been just that, discussions. Are we going somewhere? How are we going? Who's going? And what's the plan to get there?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the comment. First, let me apologize because those 13 action items were a part of the discussion for today. We wanted you to be able to see those. Here is the specific goal and objective, the narrow objective of this committee, this subcommittee. The county the Key Bank has the contract, and they have agreed to 13 best faith effort objectives, outcomes, action items. That is the focus of this subcommittee, to see that Key Bank provides to Cuyahoga County their best faith effort towards those action items. Those action items were given to us by Frank Ford and a handful of others that I presented to the administration, that was built into their negotiations with Key Bank when they were to win the contract. Well, it appears it was not a mandate to them, but ultimately came out as best faith effort. So our objective here is somewhat narrow in that we are to look at those 13 action items and determine if Key Bank is actually achieving those efforts in real time. So we do have a narrow focus, but once you see those action items, and Frank Ford was able to share them, those that he have said, we'll see that they were a part of those written documentation that you received. So our narrow focus is to interact with Key Bank through the life of this subcommittee and determine if they are actually accomplishing what they have said they can do, to give our guidance, our experience, and insight into seeing that each one of our cities are being benefited by the promises the best faith effort promises that Key Bank has made as a result of receiving our county contract, banking contract. So that is the narrow focus. Hopefully that partly answered the question. Any further clarification I can give?
But I think there's a desire.
I'll just say, that helps. Narrow focus helps me handle my expectations. It changes my expectations. When you use the word narrow, then I know what my expectations are. They need to be a little bit smaller and more deliberate. So that word helps. Sorry, Ms. Stephen.
That's okay. That is the primary focus, but there is also the desire by several folks who are members of this committee to see that after we focus on that we talk about the needs of encouraging other lenders in this marketplace to do better. So we start with Key, but I don't think that there is a desire to stop there.
That's right.
And so that needs to be articulated clearly and upfront, that most of these folks are activists and that they see that the global picture is bigger than just Key if we want East Side, West Side, South Side to all be able to engage better in maintaining properties and building properties and owning properties across Cuyahoga County. Did I get that right, Frank? Are you still here?
I'm still here and I was muted. And yes, I believe that that's an important point you raised, that and I believe the administration did have a meeting with Executive Budish and other key staff where they expressed that they did want to go beyond just Key Bank, that ultimately they were hoping to encourage other banks to contribute in the same way that Key Bank has. So I think it's an important point you just raised.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and again, that is the narrow focus is the purpose of the establishment of this subcommittee. But of course, we certainly can, as long as we don't lose everyone in the discussion of many things, as long as we stay focused, we certainly are here for a bigger picture. We certainly are. Are there any other comments from anyone in the committee?
Mr. Chair, this is Khalil again. I just wanted to jump on a point that Mayor Blackwell mentioned about sort of agreeing in a sort of a comprehensive way about what the needs are and how we would pursue them. And I think that part of the question for this subcommittee is to take a look and make a decision about what those needs are. And this subcommittee would then advise the Community Development Committee of Council and Council as a whole as to what those needs are. And then Council can make it very clear as subsequent banking contracts are negotiated. We can make it clear to the administration that these are the things that we expect to see included in those negotiations moving forward. So, so we're not sort of. I think one of the issues that we had was that as this current banking contract was negotiated, those community reinvestment needs were not considered. The requests were not considered in that negotiation initially, and once they were included in the conversation, from our perspective, it maybe was a bit too late. Things were already decided. And so one of the goals, I think, of this subcommittee is to present those needs well in advance so that they can be considered at the outset as we're negotiating a banking contract, so that they don't get tacked on at the end with best faith effort sort of requirements. And so I think that's one of the things that we'll be looking at is what are the actual community needs. And I think that the mayors that are on the subcommittee and people with experience sort of translating the needs of the community into government policy and implementation will provide a very valuable perspective into what their community's needs are and bring that to the subcommittee so that they can be incorporated into our understanding of what the community reinvestment needs are that we will require from the next bank that we contract with.
Thank you, Khalil. And you're right. When we made these objectives, and I've heard that from many of you mayors as I've spoken with you, obviously one challenge has been the banks were making loans of $200,000 or more. But we have communities where average home value might be $50,000. Why don't they want to make 4 $50,000 loans as opposed to just one $200,000 loan? Okay, that's one of our objectives. So again, once you've had opportunity to go through it, the hope is that this committee provides one, not just the gravitas of being able to bring the bank to the table when many chase after the banks, and many of the stakeholders here at the meetings have chased after the banks and gotten blown off and at times. But how do we again have a serious conversation with the banks about seeing change within our respective cities and communities, and being a strong partner with this bank in particular, but ultimately I heard 100 financial institutions, ultimately bringing others to operate in a way that's going to benefit the residents of Cuyahoga County proper, and taking some of our earlier steps. Again, with our next meeting, talking with Chris Murray, I think this committee needs to understand how Key Bank got the contract, what the county is looking for when they give out a banking contract, because at the end of 4 years, there'll be a time for consideration. We can have a strong partner, but we need to understand what it looks like over 4 years, and what the county will be looking for again at the end of 4 years. So again, I think Chris Murray and Ted Carter's participation in our next meeting really will help this body understand the county's position, and again, help us to, again, just to benefit each and every one of your cities and communities. So at this time, are there any other comments or thoughts? Okay. So if not, our plan for our next meeting. At this moment, I'm thinking of a Wednesday after our council meeting, which is Wednesday, January 13th. As Matt Zoni said, let's open our calendars up, and we will have our clerk reach out and let's find what really is ideal. But I'd like to at least leave this meeting with the idea of Wednesday, January 13th, Wednesday, January 13th, as our next committee time. And we can adjust it as necessary if this body feels that is not an ideal day. Any comments or thoughts?
Just Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate, and I'm comfortable doing it on January 13th, the next meeting. I just think it's essential moving forward that we pick one consistent date and time, and we all can put it in our calendars. I would be adverse to picking and choosing meetings moving forward for the entire calendar year.
As opposed, you mean not doing it monthly, but agreeing on something for the long haul? Is that what you mean, Matt?
I want to agree on, we're going to meet on the third Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. I'm good with that. What I don't want to do is we meet 1 month on a Wednesday, the next month on a Thursday, the next month on a Monday. You're going to see people dropping off. Let's pick one day and time that reoccurs for the entire calendar year so we can all embed it in our schedule.
That can be very confusing. I like the idea of, the second Wednesday, the third Thursday, whatever it is. I like that idea. It's easier for me to actually put a date like that in my calendar and know that if there's a conflict, I can tell anyone else, no, I won't be able to do that. That's the third Thursday, or that's the second Wednesday. And I see that both of these meetings are the second Wednesday. So if that's going to be that, fine. But once we do the doodle, we'll be able to tell. But that's what I would suggest, or maybe I'm agreeing with Matt with, give us some system that I can actually look at and know where I'm going on the following day or the following month. Is that okay? Or, okay.
I think we lost Councilman Jones.
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it did get, I was looking to see if I saw him.
And hi, this is Janine. I don't see Councilwoman Stevens either.
Yeah, I think we lost both of our council members.
Oh. Oh.
Khalil, could you just wrap it up?
Sure. I suppose, but just to wrap that up, then I would like
Did we
to
lose,
ask.
I had to step out. Did we lose Purnell too?
Just for now.
Looks like we did, yeah.
Okay. So we need to close because we'd answered all questions before.
Madam Chair, just one quick question. I'm wondering, is it possible, did we determine maybe if Ashley could send out a doodle poll?
Yes, I thought she shook her head that she could do that.
Okay. Just wanted to
Or
make sure.
an equivalent to that, so that folks could respond. And I heard Purnell say that Wednesday was his preferred day, but then I missed a portion of what Barbara said.
Okay. I merely was agreeing with Mr. Jones in saying that I would like a designated date and time, whether it's the second Wednesday, the third Thursday, whatever it is, so that it's easier for me to format a calendar and avoid conflict.
So if you would all respond as quickly as possible when you receive an email from the clerk's staff, so that we can get this set up before the end of the year, so that everyone knows which Wednesday or Thursday of the month they can plan ahead to have their comments on community development and banking prepared and ready. And if they're not available, they can email them in like their public comments to be read into the record. I think that especially those of us who have backgrounds as elected officials, we understand that process. I see my buddy Matt Zone shaking his head.
Oh yeah.
So if you would all respond to the Google poll or whatever staff puts together as quickly as possible, and then get your thoughts and comments together. I'm a big baseball fan, even though it's no longer the season. Top 3 issues, always focus on that so that we can find our commonality. And I want to thank you each for agreeing to participate. If there are no further comments, did I miss anything, Khalil?
Just one clarifying comment, if I could, Councilwoman, and to the county council staff. The email doodle poll that we're going to respond to, I'm assuming, I guess I'm hopeful that it's going to be a date that works well for the county council, particularly Council Member Jones, but that it is a date that we know we're going to meet reoccurring. Is the expectation of the county council that we're going to meet monthly? That hasn't been identified. Are we meeting every 6 weeks? My recommendation is maybe early on we meet more frequent, and then we can readjust that calendar. But again, that date comes out, and if it's January 13th, I'm fine with it. But that we meet, 4 weeks from that date, same time.
At this point in time, we do not have a clear set of goals, but from my personal perspective, we need, while we have the energy and the focus, let's meet at least once a month, and maybe there will be subcommittee sub-assignments so that there can be some additional research done if there's a focus that needs more detail. So first, we're looking at once a month, but if we come to certain agreements and need time to do research, it could be 6 weeks. But I foresee us for at least the first 6 months of next year meeting monthly.
Okay.
Oh, I see my colleague is back. I think you and I need to have a conversation, Purnell, and then an email to our committee.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, my connection is a little unstable, so I'm sorry that happened.
Oh,
I did hear the tail end of that, so yes, we certainly can. And we do need to have regular meetings.
And
stable time.
we need to go ahead and close because I have someone on hold for another meeting. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. Is there anything else, Councilman Jones?
Nothing else holds our attention. Our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.